In December 1961, a grim operation unfolded in Kakuma, Kenya, near the river Tarach. Colonial governments in Kenya and Uganda had sent troops to stop raids by the Turkana people against the Karamojan's Dodoth. Among the units involved was one commanded by a lieutenant named Idi Amin from the 4th Uganda Battalion of the King's African Rifles. His methods were extraordinarily brutal. An eyewitness, a headman named Nyanyiro, later testified about the horror he saw. Amin would order his soldiers, Kamata Watarkana, Walit Hapa, Paiga, which means, seize the Turkana, bring them here, and beat them. This order was followed with chilling efficiency. Many were maimed, and some died from their injuries. The bodies were later taken to the city mortuary, where government pathologist Dr. Morris Rogoff conducted examinations. His findings were shocking. He concluded that all the bodies had severe bone fractures caused by sufficient violence. One victim, a 60-year-old man named Abura Lokoto, had a staggering 14 fractures throughout his skeleton, a testament to the violent torture he endured. News of this brutality reached the governor of Kenya, Sir Patrick Renison. He was furious that Amin's unit had unleashed such violence on Kenyan citizens. He immediately contacted his counterpart in Uganda, Sir Walter Coutts, demanding that Idi Amin be dismissed from the King's African Rifles for his actions. Governor Coutts took the matter seriously and brought it to Uganda's new Prime Minister, Apollo Milton Obote. Coutts was firm. Amin must be punished and kicked out of the army for the atrocities he committed in Kenya. But Obote had a different perspective. He flatly rejected the governor's request. His argument was that as Uganda approached independence, it desperately needed experienced black officers to take over leadership roles from the departing British. The governor, seeing Obote's refusal, gave him a stark warning. He looked at Obote and said, "I warn you, this officer could cause you trouble in the future." This prophetic warning would haunt Uganda for years to come. Instead of promoting someone like Amin, the British colonial officials had another candidate in mind. They were advocating for a highly educated, promising 27-year-old officer named Augustine Kurugaba, better known as Gus. They saw him as the ideal future leader for the Ugandan military. Gus Kurugaba was a trailblazer. He was one of the very first officers from East Africa to be trained at the prestigious Royal Military Academy Sandhurst in the UK, where he graduated in August 1962. He returned to Uganda just as the nation was buzzing with excitement for its upcoming independence. One of his first and most prestigious duties was to serve as the aide-de-camp to the Duke of Kent, who was representing his cousin Queen Elizabeth II at Uganda's independence ceremonies in October 1962. This was a high-profile role that showcased his poise and professionalism. After independence, Kurugaba's training continued. He went back to the UK in March 1963 for more advanced courses at the School of Infantry in Hythe and Warminster. Upon his return to Uganda, he was posted to various army units and quickly rose through the ranks to major. He was then appointed as the Deputy Adjutant and Quartermaster General, a significant administrative position in the military. The departing British officials were optimistic. They had hoped, and perhaps expected, that Prime Minister Obote would see Kurugaba's potential and appoint him as the commander of the Ugandan army. However, their hopes were completely misplaced. Obote had no intention of giving Kurugaba the top job. He told the British officials to their faces that he could untrust Gus Kurugaba and would not allow him to lead the military. But why? What was his reason for rejecting such a qualified and well-regarded officer? According to Grace Ibingira, a prominent Ugandan politician, the reason was religious prejudice. She recalled being at a garden party about a year after independence when Obote pointed towards Gus Kurugaba and whispered to her, "You see that man over there? The British want me to make him army commander." Obote then allegedly confessed to Ibingira that he was not about to appoint a Roman Catholic to such a powerful post. Others believe religion was just a convenient excuse. They accused Obote of rejecting Kurugaba on ethnic grounds. Kurugaba was from the Abakiga people, a smaller Bantu ethnic group from southwestern Uganda and northern Rwanda. These critics argued that Obote was hiding his tribalism behind a veil of religious concern. Whatever the true reason, be it religion, ethnicity, or a combination of both, Obote made his decision. He ignored all the advice from the British and their glowing recommendations for Kurugaba. Instead, he chose to promote veterans with minimal formal education, men like Shaban Apalat, and the very same Idi Amin who had been accused of war crimes. In 1964, Obote officially appointed Apalat as the army commander, with Idi Amin as his deputy. And what happened to the promising Gus Kurugaba? In that same year, 1964, Obote forced him to retire from the military. At just 27 years old, his military career was over. This move effectively cleared the path for Obote and Amin to climb to the top of the military hierarchy without any real competition. Kurugaba, still a young man with a future ahead of him, didn't let this setback define him. He decided to pursue a different path and enrolled at Makerere University to study law. To support his education and help his family, he took a job in the civil service. Back in the military, the power dynamics were shifting. Shaban Obote was promoted to chief of Uganda's defense staff, while Idi Amin took over as the army commander. But the alliance between Obote, and Amin was fragile. Just 2 years later, in 1966, Obote accused Obote of disloyalty. He had Obote arrested and fired him as chief of defense staff, and who did he choose to replace him? Idi Amin. This promotion came after Amin led a violent assault on the palace of the Kabaka, the king of Uganda, further consolidating Obote's power. But soon, a rift began to develop between Obote and his new military chief, Amin. Several factors fueled their growing distrust. Amin was strategically building a powerful support base within the army, recruiting heavily from his own West Nile region. He was also involved in covert operations supporting rebels in southern Sudan, often acting without Obote's full approval. The tension culminated in an assassination attempt on Obote's life in 1969. The relationship was broken beyond repair. Finally, on January 25, 1971, while Obote was away at a Commonwealth summit in Singapore, Idi Amin seized his chance. He led a military coup, overthrowing the very man who had promoted him against all advice. The governor's warning years earlier, "This officer could cause you trouble in the future," had come true in the most dramatic way possible. Meanwhile, Gus Kurugaba had quietly built a new life for himself. After graduating with a law degree from Makerere University, he excelled in his civil service career. He rose through the ranks to become a permanent secretary in various government ministries, serving his country in a different capacity. He eventually retired in 1992. On July 1, 2006, Augustine Gus Kurugaba passed away from a natural illness. Having lived a life of quiet dignity and service, far from the military career that was unjustly taken from him, his story stands as a stark reminder of how a single decision, a single choice between two men, can alter the course of an entire nation's history. Thank you for watching. If you found this story interesting, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more historical deep dives. See you next time.